Hey guys. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Faked His Death. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 6. The village surrounded by mountains. Naruto leaned out in the back of Asahi's caravan, resting his head against a pillow that he propped up against the side of the wagon's high walls. The warm midday sun shone down on them as they traveled along the road. It may not have been the fastest way to travel, but Naruto had to admit it was nicer than walking. Hey kids, we're almost at our destination. You can see the village from here. Asahi's voice rung out from the front of the wagon. Naruto grunted in acknowledgement but didn't want to get up after just getting comfortable. Karen, on the other hand, seemed far more interested. Really? She asked, exiting the back of the caravan to see for herself. It's out there in that valley. It's a large village, but it has a very small population due to its isolation. Asahi said, pointing towards a small speck on the horizon that could only be distinguished from the mountains by the difference in color. While the mountains were white with the color of the snow that blanketed the mountain, the village appeared jet black in stark contrast to its surroundings. Why did they make it stand out so much? Wouldn't it be safer to match the surroundings? Karen asked. Well, for one, it's a civilian holiday destination, not a shinobi hidden village. Asahi laughed. Karen blushed in embarrassment. I guess that would make sense. It's been so long since I have been anywhere so flashy. I really need a break from being a ninja. The truth was, the redhead had never been to any relaxation destinations ever. The first time she left Kusa was to come to Konoha for the Chunin exams, and from there she was taken by Orochimaru. From then on, it was rare for the kunoichi to see the sun more than once a week until she left with Sasuke. She had all but forgotten that there was life outside of her work for Orochimaru, and then Sasuke. Hey Naruto, come check this out, she said, looking back into the canvas-topped wagon. So he was smart enough to give me a fake first name as well. Although Ritokaze is not that far from Naruto Namikaze, he just dropped the first part of each name. Asahi thought calmly, pretending to be completely focused on the road. Naruto sighed and slowly rose to his feet before moving to the front of the caravan. Naruto's interest was not in the village, more the giant peaks that rose up behind it, almost vertical climbs. It would take immense chakra supplies to even hope to scale them. Wow, I've never seen anything like this, he thought in awe. Well, don't get too overwhelmed, Naruto, we still need to navigate our way through them, Kurama interjected. Yeah, but it looks like we're going to need more equipment, Naruto replied. He then realized that Karen was looking at him expectantly, waiting for his reaction. Man, this is really something. That must be the highest village in the elemental nations, he said finally. Yes, it is. In the safer months of the year, with less rockfalls, the village is a tourist destination, famous for skiing and mountain climbing. Although the rest of the year it is all but inaccessible, only the most skilled shinobi can approach the village, Asahi answered. So it looks like we picked a good time of year then, Naruto said happily. Yeah, I wouldn't be game to come up here otherwise, but with that said, I always make a killing when I do get up this far, Asahi replied with a smile. He found Naruto's attitude rather contagious. So how long before we get there? Karen asked eagerly. I would say a little over an hour, 2 if the mountains decided to give us a hard time, the caravan owner replied. I guess I owe you some money for taking us this far then, Naruto said, taking out his trusty toad wallet. He withdrew the remaining funds he promised the man and gave Karen a look that told her instantly that she had to repay him for her half of the fee eventually. How do you fit so much money in that small wallet? Karen asked, shaking off the look the blonde was giving her, as scientific curiosity had taken over. Oh, Ero-sennin placed a seal in here that only I can open. Well, Ero-sennin could. If he couldn't, I would have far more money than I do now, Naruto complained, before mumbling something barely audible about a no-good drunk pervert stealing all his money. Clever and anti-thieving seal. I wouldn't mind a few of those myself, Asahi said, clearly impressed. Karen, on the other hand, couldn't help but giggle at Naruto having his money stolen by his sensei. Wasn't Jiraiya a S-ranked ninja? One mission and he could have collected the yearly salary of a genin like you. She chuckled. Naruto's sweat dropped, placing his hand over his face in embarrassment. Don't remind me. Then there was the fact he was making a fortune off his books. He was a writer as well. What did he write? Karen asked. Naruto sighed, knowing how most women reacted to his master's choice in literature. He writes smut. Well, he called them novels, and I really liked his fifth book. But from what I have seen of the others, his Aika books are really nothing but porn, he admitted. Suddenly Naruto noticed a pink HEW spread across both Karen's and Asahi's faces. You both read them, don't you? The blonde added with a deadpan expression. Of course not, I would never read that filth. Karen lied so unsuccessfully that not even Naruto, perhaps the most dense ninja Konoha had produced in a generation, believed her. Well, they're actually not bad, I carry a few around with me. They are sold under a different pen name in each nation, so I guessed that a shinobi was writing them, but I never knew it was one of the legendary 3 of Konoha. Asahi said honestly, withdrawing the often coveted small orange book from an inside pocket in his jacket. So where do you hide yours, Karen? Or did you already read them all, trying and find a way for Sasuke to notice you? Naruto laughed. I told you I don't read them. She yelled angrily. She attempted to throw a punch at the blonde. Not a hard one, mind you, more like an annoyed tap. Still, Naruto leaned back to avoid the hit, laughing all the while. You're going to need to be faster than that. The blonde smirked before jumping back into the caravan. Karen was now trembling with embarrassed anger. Get back here! Promise or not, you're a dead man. She roared before following after Naruto. Hey, if you break anything back there, you are paying for it. Asahi called out with a smile caught up in the humor of the teens' interactions. Laughter could be heard from Naruto as he avoided strike after strike from the angry Kunoichi. How can you have not hit him yet? It's not exactly a large area back there. The caravan owner laughed. She's really slow. Naruto called out in response with a chuckle. Unfortunately for the blonde, that was a large enough distraction for the red-headed Kunoichi's fist to make contact with the side of his face. Ouch! Asahi laughed to himself while Naruto whined and Karen began yelling at him for embarrassing her. What an odd couple. The Namikaze boy is like a puzzle. He supposedly only holds the rank of a genin, but those moves, despite the fact that Karen was only playing around, were more along the lines of a jounin. Meanwhile, a team of shinobi moved through the land of fire, jumping from tree to tree. How far out is the team we are set to join up with? Kiba asked, sounding quite bored. His large ninja hound Akamaru barked, voicing his agreement with the Inuzuka. We need to arrive at the northern border of the land of fire. The team, as you call them, is actually just Sai. Niji informed the group. They only have one person looking for her? She escaped from a Konoha prison and is a member of the Akatsuki. Why has only Sai been looking for her? Kiba asked incredulously. It is logical. After the war, the strength of the major hidden villages has never been lower. Most shinobi have been recalled to prevent smaller countries attempting to seize power. Shino explained, stoic and calm as ever. Still a team of one, and it's only Sai. I thought we would have some awesome umba like that Yamato guy that helped Naruto train. At the very least, I would have hoped for one of our senseis. Kiba whined. Complaining will do us no good, Kiba-kun. Besides, Sai-sen has been in Umbu all his life. I'm sure he is capable of the task Kakashi-sama has given him. Hinata said. Besides Kiba, it's like Shino said. The top-level shinobi are still required in Konoha until the alliance is formed, or our shinobi numbers have increased. Niji replied. Ga, fine, but why are we heading north? How do you know she went this way? Kiba grunted. That is simple behavioral analysis. Our target was a long-time servant of Orochimaru and after him Sasuke. She knew that Sasuke was in the north as well as the Sound Village bases. Either would be her most likely destinations upon escaping from Konoha. Shino informed the Inuzuka. It is not that simple. The truth is there has been no sign of a trail of any kind. Her skill set was only that of a genin, but her ability as a censor and to suppress her chakra are off the scale. That is how she was able to avoid all the shinobi on her way out of the village. She could tell that only a skeleton staff were left in the village and used that as an opportunity to escape. All they found in her cell was a picture of Sasuke. Niji added. The name of the last Uchiha made Akamaru growl menacingly. Yeah, I feel the same way, buddy. I wish he was still alive so I could have the pleasure of killing him myself. Kiba said, talking to the large white hound. If Naruto was unable to cleanly defeat Sasuke, then there is little doubt that all of us would fail, although I can't help but admit that I feel somewhat similar. Shino admitted. Niji-kun, if this Kunoichi is so good at hiding, then what chance do we have of finding her? Hinata asked. Probably none. Kakashi-sama just gave us this mission to keep Hinata from pointlessly hurting herself training or searching for Naruto's toads. She won't be able to hide from our Byakugan, and there were no Inuzuka or Aburame searching for her before. If we can find a trail, then we have the best chance of finding her. Niji spoke evenly. It was not a lie, more of a deflection from the real question. Land of Earth. Asahi's caravan pulled up at the front of a massive wall, twice the size of the one that once surrounded Konoha before the Akatsuki attacked, and 3 times as thick. Wow, what's with the massive walls? Naruto asked in awe. Despite being located in a rather safe valley, this village is still often bombarded by several deadly stone rain storms in the most dangerous parts of the year. With most of the village being built underground, the walls prevent the village from being caving and keep the paths open. Asahi answered. Wow, if it's so dangerous, why would anyone live here? Karen asked in bewilderment. The simplest answer would be money. Half the year this place is the hottest tourist destination in the land of Earth. It's basically a gold mine. Half a year working here can make anyone a fortune. You'll see when we get in there, the place is filled with some of the richest people I have ever met. Asahi answered in a matter-of-fact tone. So there are lots of things to do here then? Karen asked silently, hoping Naruto wasn't hoping to move on quickly. She for the first time in her life wanted to relax and enjoy life. It was partly Naruto's doing. His chakra was so warm that she felt safe and contented just being in his presence. Not that she would ever admit to such a thing. For Naruto's part, he wanted to move on quickly, although perhaps not too quickly that it aroused further suspicion from the former Anbu shinobi. Maybe it would be wise to stay in the village at least until Asahi leaves? Naruto questioned. I would actually agree. This man has already discovered far too much. It would be unwise to move on while he is in the area. The last thing you need now is for him to discover where we are going, when it is quite possible that he has already discovered who your father was. Kurama agreed in the back of Naruto's mind. How would he know that? Naruto asked in response to his companion. It's simple, isn't it? Trained by the Yondame's student and sensei, yellow spiky hair, and blue eyes. It doesn't take a genius to put those together, and for a former Anbu from IWA it would have been as easy as defeating you when you first graduated. Kurama replied with a small chuckle at the end, throwing a thinly veiled insult at the teen. Oh, that's harsh, Kurama. It's not like you helped things for me when I was young, you know. Naruto replied. I helped plenty. Do you think you would have been able to do half the things you have done if it wasn't for the adversities you went through because of me? I made you mentally strong from a young age, although I have to add it at the time that was either my choice or intent. Kurama retorted in a matter-of-fact tone. I guess you're right. I would have never had the drive to be Hokage and be respected if I wasn't shunned. I never would have learned the Shadow Clone and passed my graduation exam if it hadn't been for Mizuki's distrust and hatred. I would have died on that bridge on my first mission if it hadn't been for you. I never thought of any of those things as reasons to be thankful, but I guess in hindsight they are. Naruto replied with a small smile. You become stronger by overcoming difficulties, and I was a rather large one, so it's of little surprise that you became strong in your own right. I would still win in a proper fight though. The fox declared, a small smirk gracing his face at the end, not wanting the blonde's head to become swollen. The caravan passed between a set of large gates and into the village. Each building was made of the same thick stones of the village walls, and each was larger than the Hokage Tower had ever been. Despite this, most of the main roads were covered with ceilings to prevent significant rockfalls blocking traffic, and after the small area around the village walls, the town seemed to extend into a large cave that lit up with bright lights of a small city that only had the entrance of the cave to supply natural light. This is the village of Awain. If you are looking for a good time in the land of Earth, this is where people come. Skiing, mountain climbing, basically any type of adventure holiday the rich civilians of the elemental nations are looking for, this is the place to be. Asahi said with a small smile. You're really fond of this place, aren't you? Karen observed. You could say that. I was born here after all. The caravan owner answered. Really? But if you could make so much money here, why did you leave? Karen asked. I wanted to be a shinobi, ever since I was a little boy. IWA would send teams out here for survival exercises. When it became apparent that I had a larger than normal chakra supply for a civilian family, I was accepted into the IWA Academy. My parents were rather wealthy at that point, so they came with me, and I have only been back a few times since then. Asahi spoke fondly. He never regretted his decision to become an IWA shinobi, even if in the end things did not turn out as he had hoped. So how long do you plan on staying in the village, old man? Naruto asked. That really depends, Gaki. I'll sell my stocks to local shops and then resupply on a few things. I would say a few days at most. Besides, there is Asahi paused for a moment, contemplating how to continue. Something I want to check up on while I am here. He finished. I'll find out who you really are one way or another. Nothing about this kid makes sense. He said he left Konoha to bring peace, yet at the same time said he is only a genin. Maybe if IWA found out about a living relative of that man, it could lead to war? But that seems a rather simplistic view of things. He added as an afterthought. Well, just drop us off at a hotel. We need a place to stay for a few days until I can figure out our other arrangements. Naruto said, not reading anything into what Asahi had said. There is a place that is not bad near the center of the village. You will find this town rather expensive, so I hope you have money. Asahi said. Naruto grimaced slightly. His poor Gamachan had taken a pounding from paying for their trip here, and he still needed to purchase enough supplies to last. He had no idea if he would ever see civilization again once he left Dwayne. Then he needed to buy a tent large enough for both himself and Karen, as well as clothes warm enough to survive the freezing cold of the mountains. Karen, for her part, also paled somewhat. She had the money to repay Naruto for the trip and maybe even enough for a week or so in a hotel, but she had no idea how long the blonde had planned to stay here, and if she didn't know that, then she wouldn't know what type of budget she needed. I wanted to go check out some of the attractions of the village, get away from Naruto and have some alone time, she thought grumpily as the caravan continued to move through the streets into the large cave that held the vast majority of the village. They traveled for a few more minutes. The streets were all lit with bright lamps held high in the air that almost simulated daylight. Often the stores didn't need to have their shops lit up, the streets were so well lit. Finally they came to a stop in front of a rather large and seemingly ancient building. The sign was faded, and the bright sky blue paint was peeling off the stone walls. It may not look like much, but in this town you won't get better value for money, Asahi declared upon seeing the apprehensive looks on the faces of Naruto and Karen. Naruto shrugged with his trademarked foxy grin and hopped down from the wagon. I guess I can't really complain. This place is fine for me. Are you coming, Karen, or are you going to find someplace else? Karen didn't like the look of the place at all, particularly when she compared it to some of the other buildings. All around them were hotels and bathhouses that looked like mansions, tall white sparkling buildings that seemed to be so inviting. No way I'm staying in there. Who does he think I am? Some penniless peasant, she asked herself. Unfortunately for the red-haired Uzumaki, the words she spoke were, "Yeah, I'll come. It will be cheaper if we get a single apartment with 2 rooms anyway." Naruto paused for a moment. He never said anything about sharing a room but shook it off as she made sense. Good point. Well, I guess this is goodbye for now, old man. I hope you make a killing on your remaining stock, he said, waving to Asahi while Karen hopped down from the caravan, only just realizing that she had completely gone against what she had wanted to do. Yes, see you around, Gaki. Good luck with your new life. You picked a good place to lie low, that's for sure. Asahi replied, returning Naruto's wave before his caravan began to move once again. Once the wagon moved around the corner, Naruto let out a sigh and turned back to the rundown building that Asahi had recommended as a hotel. Well, shall we go get settled in? Naruto asked. Karen didn't say anything but nodded in agreement before following after the blonde. He's right, this is a perfect village to lay low. Half the year it's inaccessible, and the only shinobi that come out here are from IWA during a small period of survival exercises. Maybe I could stay here. I wouldn't need to follow Naruto around for protection, she thought before she was hit by a horrible realization. All she really knew how to do was be a shinobi or conduct rather questionable experiments on people, not exactly the right skill set for a civilian. But Asahi managed to make a life for himself. Then again, he was never high up on the list of most wanted criminals in the elemental nations. She sighed at this thought, and contented herself with feeling Naruto's chakra as they approached the entrance to the hotel. If the outside of the hotel left much to be desired, the interior blew their expectations out of the water, and then continuously beat them with a very large stick. They stepped into a marble entrance hall lined with tall pillars that rose several floors up. Several rather exotic plants scattered the walls, and a raging fire was lit in a mantle at the far end of the room, making the pair feel like they were in a tropical paradise. Amazing, Naruto said. His eyes were wide in awe. If the interior looks like this, then why does the outside look like it has lived through all of the Shinobi Wars? Karen asked, also in shock. The pair was so stunned that they didn't notice the rather tall man with a thin black beard and matching hair who had come to greet them. Karen's question caused the man to chuckle quietly, but still loud enough for 2 trained shinobi to hear. The answer is quite simple, miss. It is to chase away those that only see what is on the outside. Because of that, we can offer quality rooms to the type of people who truly deserve them that cannot always afford it. We are looked down upon by our exterior appearance by the other hotels in the area, so they never bother attempting to compete with our prices. The man said. But doesn't it chase away customers? Karen asked, slightly confused by the man's explanation. Only of those people whose business I do not wish to have anyway. In any event, how may I help you too? The man replied in a friendly tone. We need a unit for a few nights, preferably one with 2 bedrooms if possible, Naruto said. The man once more smiled and gave a curt bow before replying. I believe we can facilitate your request. If you will come this way, please. This guy is kinda weird, Naruto whispered into Karen's ear, earning a small giggle in return. True, but he does seem friendly, and his chakra, while only that of a civilian's, feels honest and trusting. Karen replied quietly. Do you check everyone's chakra like that? Naruto asked. The truth was that she very rarely did that, and the only reason she had was because she was still engrossing herself in Naruto's chakra. I do when I find someone interesting. She lied convincingly. She had given up on discovering the blonde's missing darkness a day ago, but it did not take her long to begin sensing his chakra again. She had convinced herself it was just to pass the time, but the truth was she enjoyed the warmth of his chakra. It was like snuggling up with a warm blanket in front of a fire while snow fell outside. The two shinobi were taken up several floors and then led them to a small apartment that was just as luxurious as the entrance had been. Naruto instantly realized that it was larger than his apartment had ever been. Wow, this is amazing. And there are two separate bedrooms? Naruto asked. Indeed, they are at opposite sides of the room. You do have to share a bathroom, I am afraid. The man said in a friendly tone. That's fine, thanks for the room. Naruto said. The hotel worker nodded and exited the room with a curt bow. Closing the door behind he had left, Karen turned to look around. It was the nicest place she had ever been, but she couldn't help but feel worried. Are you sure we can afford this? I wasn't exactly paid well by Orochimaru. She admitted with some hesitation. It's fine, it's only for a few days. After that it could be a very long time before we are able to relax like this again. Naruto replied. This just made Karen more confused. I still don't know where we are going from here. I need to know so I can prepare. I'll need some new clothes as well, and I don't want to buy anything that will be inappropriate, she said, hoping to finally get some answers. Naruto sighed and took a seat in a large, comfy-looking chair. I'm heading out of the elemental nations and over the insurmountable peaks, he admitted. What? That's suicide. Nobody has ever survived that trip. We will be killed. Karen gasped. The idea was terrifying. Well, nobody has ever come back. That doesn't mean that they died. But I can't live in this world without being recognized. Like you said, my chakra is rather distinguishable, and quite frankly so am I. If I use a hinge, someone is bound to recognize my chakra signature, and if I keep my chakra repressed they will be able to see who I am. This is my only option. But this place sounds perfect for you. I bet you could start a life here, then you wouldn't need to follow me around anymore. I'll pay for the hotel while I'm still here. You can save your money and look for some work, Naruto suggested. No, Karen replied angrily. What's wrong? Naruto asked, confused. Naruto thought this would be the best thing for Karen and for himself in the long run. You're not getting rid of me that easily. If you're going, then so am I, Karen said firmly. What the hell am I saying? This is suicide. I don't want to die because of some idiot that seems to have a death wish. Despite the thought, she had reacted instinctively when she thought Naruto was trying to ditch her. It will be dangerous. I said so before, Naruto warned, although he did like the thought of having a companion other than Kurama. Again, Karen seemed to be torn by what to do. Her common sense told her to let Naruto go on his own, and she would create a life for herself here, safely hidden away from the ninja world's prying eyes. The other half seemed to rebel against the thought of staying here alone, and being abandoned again like she had been by Sasuke. I don't care, I'm coming. You promised I could. Sasuke said you were always big on keeping promises even if they were impossible. You're not going to go back on that now, are you? She finally said, making up her mind even if she didn't understand why. Naruto smiled in a reserved defeat. He hadn't counted on her bringing up his promise. Alright, but there are some things we are going to need before we leave. We can start collecting them tomorrow. Why don't you go enjoy what could be your last taste of civilization for the rest of the day? He said kindly. Right, thank you, Karen said, and after placing what little possessions she had in her room she exited, pausing for a moment at the door of the apartment. What are you going to do? You can come check out the village with me if you want, she said hesitantly. No, that's fine, I have some things to think about, like what we are going to need for our trip. Naruto decided. Okay, but you will be here when I get back, right? She asked, suddenly feeling rather frightened that she would lose the blonde. It's a promise, Naruto replied with a reassuring smile. Karen nodded, returning a smile of her own before closing the door on her way out of the room. So what do you think, Kurama? She seems fairly determined to come with us, Naruto thought once the kunoichi was gone. Seems to me like she has some abandonment issues. I sensed several conflicting emotions in her when you asked if she wanted to stay behind. If that is the case, then she might actually prove to be useful. She was unquestioningly loyal to her previous companions. It's possible that could transfer over to you. Still, I'm not convinced she can hold her own. It is also highly likely that she will need your help to survive the trip. Thin air and freezing temperatures will slow her down, while thanks to me you will be largely unaffected. Kurama replied calmly. Will that lower my chances of survival? Naruto asked. No, not really, it will make travel slower, but as long as the food and water last, so will you. Once we are safely past this village, it will be safe to draw on even my chakra without it being felt. So as long as we keep moving, I have no doubts we will be fine, the large fox answered with some confidence. So really the only problem with taking Karen with us is keeping her alive then? Naruto surmised. Essentially yes, as of yet the girl has not done anything to make me feel she is a danger to you. Kurama admitted. Doesn't mean I like the idea though. He added once more, making his dislike for the Uzumaki kunoichi known. Yeah, but a promise is a promise. Naruto said out loud with a sigh. The blonde slumped back in the chair before he started making a mental note of what they would need for their journey. Chapter 7. A long afternoon. Karen walked through the streets of the underground city, still struggling to come to terms with the fact that she may well have agreed to follow Naruto to her death. What was I thinking? It should have been so easy for me to say thanks for taking me this far, then leave him to go die on top of some kami-forsaken mountain. But I just couldn't do it, she contemplated while looking around in the artificial daylight of Iwame. The kunoichi didn't know why, but the thought of Naruto leaving without her was quite painful. Just the thought of it made Karen quickly search for Naruto's chakra signature, and let out a sigh of relief when she felt him still at the hotel. After a short walk through the rather busy streets, Karen found herself in a large town square. In the center was a large fountain that lit up the water in various colors, and several children were sitting at the edges trying to catch fish that lived in the water at the base. The area was lined with what seemed like high-end stores, each selling different types of products. It was as if all stores had their own specialty, and none of the others would even think of competing. Another thing that Karen instantly noticed was that wherever she looked the people wore high-quality clothing. In comparison, she looked like a street beggar. She only had 2 sets of clothes, the ones given to her in Konoha and the set she was wearing when Sasuke had almost killed her. By this time both were looking a little worse for wear. Only now was she so self-conscious of how badly scuffed and worn they both were. I'm going to need some new clothes anyway, why not buy some stuff now? She thought, making her way over towards what appeared to be a large clothing store. Upon entering the store, Karen was instantly approached by several store clerks. Good afternoon, miss. It seems you are in desperate need of a new look. A young woman a few years older than Karen said. She had shoulder-length black hair that was pulled back into a short ponytail and dark blue eyes. She wore what appeared to be the store uniform of a light blue button-up shirt and black trousers. Ignoring the rather obvious insult for the time being, Karen nodded. I've been traveling for quite some time, and I need some new clothes. Some warm ones for mountain climbing as well, she said, not wanting to cause a scene. Yes, you certainly have the look of someone in Iwame for mountaineering, the woman said, not at all trying to mask her insults of Karen's current appearance. Wow, what a bitch, I should teach her some manners. Karen raged angrily but calmed herself, knowing she needed to stay under the radar. Look, can you help me or not? She asked eventually in a rather aggressive tone. I can certainly try. This way, please, the woman said, leading Karen to a large section of the store that sold survival equipment. I trust that you know your size. I believe some of the larger items are sold out, however, the store clerk said, once more insulting Karen. That's fine. In fact, I'm wearing baggy clothing, in case you hadn't noticed. The kunoichi replied through clenched teeth, as calmly and kindly as she could muster. Oh, of course. How silly of me. I guess I was just distracted by the state of your attire. The woman spoke, a small smirk gracing her features. Well, thank you for showing me here. I can handle the rest on my own, thank you, Karen replied, her anger at the woman steadily building. I'm sorry, it is store policy to stay with our customers to be sure they are not attempting to steal, the woman said with a good deal of fake sweetness in her voice. She also decided to ignore the fact that all around the store there were families shopping alone. Maybe she doesn't trust me because of how I look at the moment, the kunoichi reasoned. Karen just shook her head and tried to ignore the woman's snide remarks as she searched through racks of clothing. Eventually she picked out a tight-fitting black undershirt that could be used when it was too hot to wear the lavender and blue ski jacket and pants that she picked out for warmth. She didn't know much about the insurmountable peaks, but one thing that she did know was that it would be cold. She also grabbed several sets of tight black pants and short-sleeved tops of various colors on the off chance that should they actually survive the trip, where they were going was warm. It was quite expensive, but Karen couldn't care less after all. For all she knew, they didn't even have people where she was going, let alone stores. You seem to have quite a lot of stuff. Was that your only outfit or something? The rather rude woman asked. Karen's nerve was running thin. Everything she did was criticized, and everything ended in an insult. It wouldn't matter if it was. I'm traveling and I happen to like these clothes, not I suggest you do your job and take my money so I can leave, she said firmly. Karen finished paying for her clothes and decided to return to her room to drop them off. She could come back later to explore the village more, and this woman had put her in a rather bad mood, something that Naruto picked up on the moment she opened the door. What's wrong? He asked as she stalked into the small hotel apartment. Nothing, I just had a hard time buying some clothes I liked, Karen said, not willing to say that she was upset by a store clerk. Really, where was the store? I need to get some warmer clothes myself, Naruto asked, hoping she wasn't in such a bad mood as to refuse his question. There is a large shopping district not far from here. The clothes store has everything you will need. I can show you later if you want, Karen offered slightly reluctantly, as she had no real desire to be anywhere near that woman again. That would be awesome. In that case, I'll buy us some dinner afterward, as thanks then, Naruto replied offhandedly. Karen flushed slightly red, although Naruto didn't see, as he was busy making a list of things he would need to survive for a few months in the wilderness. Why you mean like a date? She said, her voice shaking slightly, unsure how to respond to such a thing. Naruto, as always, just expected the worst, and turned, shaking his hands defensively. No, not like that. It's just as a thank you for helping me out, he said, slightly hoping Karen took the subject of dinner with him better than Sakura ever had. Oh, in that case, sure. It's not like we won't be eating alone together at times from now on anyway, Karen said with a smile. She felt both relieved and yet disappointed at the same time by Naruto's declaration that it wasn't a date. Just let me go jump in the shower and get changed, and we can go, she added before entering her room to drop off her clothes and pick out a pair to wear before entering the bathroom. When the kunoichi exited the bathroom, she had her hair tied back because it was still slightly wet from the shower, and was wearing long black trousers. Her baggy and worn top was replaced by a navy blue shirt that clung to her figure. This was the first time Naruto had seen her in any attire that didn't completely hide her curves, and he was currently at a loss to explain why she would want to. At only 16, she was still developing, but she had the makings of a fine hourglass figure, hips and chest well proportioned for someone her age. I like your new look, Naruto said with a friendly tone. If he was smart, he would have stopped there. Unfortunately, Naruto was rarely smart when it came to the fairer sex. It's much better than the bulky jacket you were wearing. You look like a real woman now, Karen went red with a mixture of a blush at the compliment and anger. Are you saying I looked like a man before? She asked, half yelling in a threatening tone. Naruto paled and held his hands up in a defensive position, fearing the worst. No, I'm sorry, I was just saying that you looked really cute and pretty. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm sorry, he said really quickly, hoping to calm the kunoichi before she hit him. He paused for a moment when no pain followed. How that's strange, usually I would be embedded in a wall by now, he thought. Kurama chuckled at this thought. As much as I find your perceptions amusing, not every female is as violent as the pink-haired one. If you spent more time with others, you may have found that out by now, the fox lectured. He was never a big fan of Sakura. Her tendency to do nothing of any real use seemed to irk the fox even before he and Naruto became friends. Karen had found Naruto's cowering quite humorous, but the declaration that he said she was cute made her blush return. Damn, what is wrong with me? I can't be getting all flustered from what was just a simple compliment. Well, he is the first person to tell me that they liked how I looked, but still only a compliment, she thought, stalking past the blonde over to the entrance to the hotel room. Come on, idiot. If we don't get a move on, the store will close and you won't be able to get any new clothes, she said while opening the door and stalking outside. She seems mad, Naruto fretted before getting up and following after Karen. Hey, wait up, the blonde called after the kunoichi, who had continued to walk away. Karen pretended not to hear, but in the end it didn't matter. Even without using chakra, Naruto was much faster than the redhead. Oh, you decided to show up after all? Well, come on. Maybe we can find something that will make you look like a real man, she said, throwing Naruto's words back at him. Naruto wanted to ask what was wrong with the clothes he had on, but decided against it. Enough people made fun of his orange jumpsuits for him to know that maybe he didn't know that much about fashion. So it was possible that his choice of civilian attire may not have been any better. He didn't really care though. He just wore what he liked. The rest of the walk was in almost complete silence, making both teens thankful that it was only a short trip from their room to the large town square. Without speaking, Karen led the blonde to the clothing store and couldn't help but grimace as the same store clerk came to serve them. I'm sorry we don't do returns, but if it makes you feel any better, if you lost a few pounds, the top would fit perfectly, she said, taking great pleasure out of her veiled insult. I don't think so, it looks fine to me, Naruto said, having just overheard the end of the conversation. The woman turned her head to reply in her usual condescending manner when she stopped. In this country, Naruto was somewhat unique. His sun-kissed skin, spiky golden locks, and azure blue eyes all left the woman quite speechless. After getting over her initial shock, she completely forgot all about Karen. How may I help you today, sir? She asked in a happy and professional tone. Well, I'm looking for some rather practical clothes. I'm going to be climbing mountains, so I need something warm, Naruto said. Yes, right this way, sir, the store clerk replied and latched onto his arms. Karen, for her part, was in a stunned rage. She didn't know what was worse, the woman assuming she was here to return the clothes she brought and saying she needed to lose a few pounds, or her unashamed flirting with Naruto. She didn't snap back into reality until the pair were several feet away, making the female Uzumaki catch up. So do you see anything you like? Or maybe you would like some help choosing? The store clerk said, once guiding Naruto to the right section of the store. The area was filled to the ceiling with outfits of varying sizes, each made for the severe cold. I guess I could use some help. I've always been told I have bad taste when it comes to clothing. Naruto chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck in embarrassment. I see. Well, in that case, let me take a look at you and see what we are working with, the store clerk said, and quickly yanked the shirt off Naruto's back. She was instantly forced to repress a blush while silently admiring the view. Hey! Naruto yelled in surprise. He wasn't angry, as he just assumed she was doing her job, but it was still a little sudden. This was the scene that Karen walked in on when she finally caught up with the pair. What the hell is going on here? She asked in shock. When Naruto turned to face her, she turned a shade of red that only Hinata had ever been able to achieve. Naruto had always been well-toned, but his sage training and then the war had left him looking as though he was carved out of stone, and the seal on his stomach and one scar that sat just to the side of his heart were the only blemish that made him seem unrefined yet dangerous at the same time. So that's why I have my shirt off, Naruto finished explaining, only to then realize that Karen had a faraway look in her eyes and was bright red. I think you broke her. Kurama chuckled. What did I do? What's wrong with her? Naruto asked urgently, quickly going over to check on the dazed Kunoichi. Nothing you should concern yourself with at the moment, that's for sure, the fox answered cryptically. Good to see you're as helpful as ever, Naruto replied with a deadpan expression. The store clerk saw Karen's reaction and decided that she would have a little fun with the pair. Oh, I'm sorry, I had no idea your girlfriend would react like that. Is she alright? She asked sweetly. Yeah, I think so. But she's not my girlfriend, Naruto replied. The sound of talking had finally woken Karen from her mind's slumber. Oh, I didn't mean to say anything that I shouldn't. I just assumed with the way she was following you around that you were spoken for. So if she isn't your girlfriend, then what is she? The store clerk said, getting closer to the blonde in slightly bold move. She had initially wanted to flirt with Naruto in order to get under the Kunoichi's skin, but finding out he was single, and what some would call a perfect physical specimen, her goals had changed. I guess that we are traveling companions. We only got to the village today and our clothes were a bit worn. So that's why we are here, Naruto explained. So I guess you don't know your way around the village then? Maybe when I get off my shift we could go grab something to eat, then I could show you around, the woman said, tracing her hand softly down his abs in a not-so-subtle hint at what she really wanted. Are you kidding me? This bitch is going after Naruto? Well, there is no way I'm going to let that happen, Karen thought. The thought of Naruto and this woman together made her very angry, mostly because of how badly she had been treated earlier on that day. Sorry, but Naruto can't tonight. He already promised to take me out for dinner, she snapped once more, making her presence known. Oh, but I am sure you can reschedule something so trivial, right? You two are travel companions, so you should be used to eating together, the store clerk said, only taking her attention away from Naruto for a second to smirk at Karen, who was glaring at her. What the hell is with this woman? From the moment I entered the store she has been looking down on me. But I'm not letting you have your way this time. I can't make a scene, but I sure as hell won't let her do what she wants with Naruto, Karen mused. Naruto was not exactly sure what was going on, but could sense that Karen was not happy. He didn't even need to be channeling Kurama's chakra to see that. Look, thank you for the offer, but Karen is right. I promised her dinner, so I'll have to turn down your offer this time. Sorry, he said. The woman's tone changed immediately. What, am I not pretty enough for you? She asked aggressively. Or maybe you just prefer that nerdy bitch with the glasses. Enough, Naruto said. His voice held so much power and commanded respect while not being overly loud. I don't know what your problem with Karen is, but you will not speak to her like that while I'm around. Now apologize, then get out of my sight. He ordered, for the first time looking like the experienced shinobi that was the hero in a war. The store clerk seemed to visibly shrink under Naruto's intense gaze, and she slowly nodded. I'm sorry for how I behaved, she said before running away back to the front of the store. Wow. Karen gasped in shock, struggling to come to terms with what just happened. Sorry about that, but the way she was speaking about you was not right. She didn't even know you and was judging you from what she had seen. I lived through something not at all dissimilar, so I know how painful words and stares can be, Naruto admitted. Karen was at a loss for words. Naruto continued to surprise her. She never expected him to defend her in such a way. In fact, nobody had ever stood up for her like that before. She had often dreamed of Sasuke defending her honor when she was just a few years younger, but she soon found out he was never going to be that type of person. That was unless it helped him achieve whatever goal he had. Nobody has ever done something like that for me before, she said, her voice still weak from being in shock. Well, they shouldn't ever have to. Nobody should talk to you or anyone else like that. Anyway, I chased the store assistant away, so do you think you can help me pick out some clothes? Naruto replied, hoping to get back to the reason why they came to the store in the first place. Karen nodded, more than happy to help Naruto out after what he had done. Yes, sure. But can you do something for me first? Sure, what is it? He asked happily. Can you put your shirt back on? It's kinda distracting. Karen admitted, another small blush crossing her cheeks. Oh right, sorry, Naruto replied. Once decent again, Karen began looking over the different styles of clothing. They don't have any ninja stuff here obviously, but maybe you should grab some stuff that will be easy to move in. Try these, Karen said, handing Naruto a jet black turtleneck top that fit perfectly. It's good, but I don't think this is going to be warm enough, Naruto said, inspecting the thin woolen material. Of course it's not, but you wear that underneath a jacket as an extra layer. Besides, with any luck we won't be living in the snow on top of some mountain for the rest of our lives, Karen retorted, handing the blonde a thick black and red jacket, lined with furs, making it instantly warm and comfortable. Okay, now I get it. If it was me, I would have just grabbed the first set of thermal jacket and pants that I came across. Naruto chuckled. Baka, she scolded, shaking her head. Do you want to get anything else? Maybe some clothes for when we get to the other side? The mountains don't go on forever, so it might be a good idea to grab some clothes for warmer climates, she added. It might be a good idea, but with all the food and camping supplies we need to take, I don't want to be weighed down by anything unnecessary. So this stuff will have to do. Just grab me a few more of the shirts to wear under the jacket, and we can go. I did promise you dinner after all, Naruto said happily. Then what are we waiting for? Let's pay for this stuff and get out of here. And you better take me somewhere nice. I want to enjoy my last few days in civilization, and that means eating well. Karen deled. Naruto could almost hear his beloved Gamachan crying from the hammering it was about to take. True to her word, Karen found what looked like the most expensive place in the whole village. It was several floors tall, each with a different style of food, or as they called it, cuisine from around the elemental nations. Each of the great nations had a floor specifically designed to match its scenery. Naruto found the Land of Water most interesting, as it was designed like an aquarium. The walls were all large fish tanks filled with exotic species of fish that Naruto had never seen before. What about this one? Naruto asked, hoping to have a better look around. You think I'm having seafood as my last proper meal? No, that's way too cheap, Karen replied, enjoying the fact that Naruto hadn't even argued and let her take command. That's not true. What about lobsters? Those bastards are expensive, Naruto said in a matter-of-fact tone. Well, as tempting as that is, I think I'll still pass, came Karen's joyous reply. See what happens when you don't listen to me? I told you that we should have just killed her back when she found the caravan. And now look, she's being difficult. I say that's a point for me, Kurama said as they walked past the Land of Water room. I can't just go around killing people because they're being difficult. Besides, I don't mind so much. From what I can tell, she hasn't had many people treat her with any kindness or respect, so letting her choose what we have for dinner is nothing special, Naruto replied. Fine, just don't become attached to her. I shouldn't need to remind you that she was once trying to hunt you down and kill you, the fox replied in annoyance. Where have I heard something similar before? Oh, now I remember, it was you telling me that you would rip me apart limb from limb. I have no intention of growing attached to Karen, but if I can convince you to be my friend and give up on hatred, then I can deal with her, Naruto replied confidently. One at a time, Naruto and Karen moved past the other rooms, each depicting the environment of the individual nation. Finally, the kunoichi came to a stop at a door into a room looked like a well-lit forest floor. The wooden tables looked like tree stumps. Instantly Naruto felt a hint of nostalgia. The land of fire, he said almost longingly. It perfectly reminded him of the forests around Konoha, almost to the point that he thought it may have been some genjutsu. We'll eat here, seems like the room chose us, Karen said, dragging Naruto into the forested room. Why did you pick this room? Naruto asked, quite pleased that she did. Karen smirked at the question. Well, for one, the land of earth and land of fire rarely trade with each other, so the food from here will be the most expensive, she informed him. Oh, Naruto said with a weak chuckle, knowing he was going to be significantly lower in pay after this. But what made up my mind was your reaction. This was where you wanted to eat, not just out of interest in some stupid fish that would have distracted you from the food, she added honestly. And that seafood, despite the fact we are quite possible the furthest distance away from water in the elemental nations, making it far more expensive than anything else, is still too cheap, right? Naruto added with a smirk of his own. A waiter came and took their orders, before exiting without further word. I didn't think about that, Karen admitted with a face palm. Oh well, this place is nicer anyway. I think if I was going to settle down somewhere, it would be in a place like this. I always secretly hoped that Sasuke would go back to Konoha and take me with him, she sighed. Naruto burst out laughing at this. That sounds just like Sakura-chan and Ino when they were younger, always chasing after Sasuke, trying to mend his wounded heart. I never understood what everyone saw in him. I mean, he never said anything unless you were a fan of ape-like grunting. Naruto laughed. Karen had to facepalm again. She had had rather similar thoughts about Sasuke at times. I guess I was not much better at all. Maybe I was just a little girl with a crush. I thought his dark attitude was cool. Well, that was up to the point he killed that Danzo guy and stabbed me in the chest. Nothing like a Chidori to the chest to give you a wake-up call. It made me realize that I needed to be far stronger if I ever wanted to achieve any of my dreams, Naruto said, subconsciously rubbing the scar on his chest. Karen remembered the scar on Naruto's chest from when he took off his shirt, and then placed her hand against her own scar that Sasuke had caused. It was thin, and thanks to Sakura healing it almost immediately after the incident, it was all but invisible. In her mind, however, the image remained. She would often have nightmares of the scene playing over and over in her head. Did it hurt? I was so stunned at what happened that when he hit me with the jutsu I didn't even feel anything. Well, at least I didn't feel any pain, Karen asked. The attack had crushed her emotionally. That pain had lasted long after the physical wound had been healed. That's a difficult question. I can't even remember it. I wasn't exactly myself when I was fighting, and I blacked out almost instantly after. I would have died, but I have a natural healing ability, and paired with my other gift, allowed my body to heal, Naruto admitted. You have a healing ability? Karen asked, slightly surprised. She was the only person that she knew with chakra that had healing qualities. Yeah, I thought for a long time it was just luck or something else healing me so quickly, Naruto said, looking down at his stomach, indicating the seal. The Kyuubi? She guessed in a hushed whisper, being extra careful that nobody could hear. Naruto nodded slowly. He had guessed Karen knew about his bijou but had decided not to bring the topic up. Yeah, but it turns out his chakra doesn't heal me at all. It was my own natural ability to heal that was healing me, and when I used Kurama's chakra it sort of superpowered the ability, Naruto admitted. Oh, wait, Kurama? Karen questioned. Naruto paused and made sure nobody was in earshot before speaking. The bijou all have names. They all told me their names before giving me some of their power to fight Obito and Madara. Kurama is the Kyuubi's name, he explained. Amazing. Every time I think I have you figured out, you say or do something that completely stuns me, the kunoichi admitted in awe. Well, they did call me Konoha's #1 unpredictable knucklehead ninja. Although at the time I think it was partly an insult, Naruto replied, rubbing the side of his head, trying to decide on what Kakashi had meant all those years ago by giving him that title. Karen, for her part, giggled at the thought. I think that it sums you up perfectly, she agreed. The waiter returned bringing their food, and they sat and ate, quietly talking about this and that. The most common topic of discussion was their pasts, and often Sasuke, although neither really enjoyed talking about the deceased Uchiha for long. After paying for their dinner, the two teens walked home, still talking lively about the things they like and dislike. This was actually quite fun. Thank you for taking me out tonight, Karen said honestly when they began to head towards their own bedrooms. It was nothing. What are friends for? Besides, if we're going to travel together, we should at least get used to being in each other's company, Naruto replied with his friendly smile. Well, good night, Karen. There is a lot of stuff to do tomorrow. And with that, Naruto entered his room, the door closing shut behind him. Chapter 8: Early Departure. Karen lay awake that night. For some reason she was unable to sleep. Every time she closed her eyes and managed to drift off, the scene of Sasuke's Chidori blade piercing her chest would almost instantly run through her mind, shocking her back awake. A lone tear rolled down her cheek as this happened for the 5th time that night. "What is wrong with me?" she sobbed quietly. Her arms wrapping around her knees, unable to take the feeling of pain and betrayal anymore. She should have been happy. For the first time in weeks she had a bed to sleep on, had her own free space, and didn't have Naruto lightly snoring away at the other side of a small cramped caravan. Karen fell back, her head caught by the soft pillow supplied by the hotel, and once more closed her eyes, hoping sleep. She knew, however, that her dream would always end as Sasuke's jutsu shot through her chest. The shock would always jolt her awake at that point. A quick glance at the bedside clock told her it was still early in the morning, 3:30 to be precise. "Now what do I do?" she asked herself, not wanting to fall back asleep as she knew Sasuke would be there waiting for her. "He's dead. He can't hurt me again," she told herself, hoping to calm down enough to close her eyes and drift off into blissful unconsciousness. Her eyes were sore from waking up so often, and her body was screaming in protest, begging for more rest. She rolled over to look out the small window in her room that looked over the underground village of Iwame. Unable to let sleep take her, the young kunoichi allowed herself to scan what chakra signatures were in the area. Karen instantly felt the world around her come alive. Hundreds of small dim lights sprung up in her mind. To pass some time she found Asahi all the way over the other side of the village. He was alone in a small room. She could tell that he was still awake despite the late hour. His was easily the second strongest chakra signature in the village. The first was of course far closer, and she had been doing her best to ignore the chakra of Naruto in the other room. She found it quite distracting. How could she focus on anyone else when he was there shining like a small version of the sun? After a short time, Karen had explored most of the interesting chakra signatures in the village. It did not take as long as she had hoped, but a village full of civilians was never going to hold many interesting chakra signatures. She sighed and slowly turned her focus onto Naruto's chakra. She could instantly tell he was asleep. His chakra, while still warm, was calm and relaxing. So relaxing, in fact, that the kunoichi's eyes began to grow heavy. She forgot all about Sasuke and her nightmares as she was now lost in Naruto's chakra. For the first time in a long time, Karen felt truly safe. He really is amazing. Those were the last thoughts that ran through her mind as she faded off to sleep, not for the first time that night, but certainly the last. The next morning, Naruto awoke early. He had quite a lot of things he needed to do. Not only did he need all the remaining mountaineering gear, he also needed to purchase as much long-life food that he could seal into the few storage scrolls he had. He contemplated summoning one of the toads to bring him more sealing scrolls, but decided against it. Even if he was the only shinobi present, summoning toads is something that anyone would be able to recall should anyone come this far up looking for the blonde, or Karen for that matter. Naruto slowly got dressed into the new outfit Karen had picked out for him. Although they were all civilian clothes and offered no protection whatsoever when it came to being struck with jutsu or weapons, Naruto had to admit that the all-black outfit would be perfect for Mosambu. Once satisfied with his state of dress, the Jinchuriki exited his room and into the living area of the hotel apartment he was sharing with Karen. "Looks like she's not awake yet," he thought as he quietly crossed the room and moved towards the exit. "Better let her sleep. I doubt she will want me to wake her up anyway." Upon leaving the hotel, Naruto briskly made his way towards the town square that housed the clothing store and the restaurant he and Karen visited the day before. He found a small cafe that sold breakfast. Unfortunately, he could not find a place that sold ramen so early in the morning. Once he had finished his meal, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki set off to work, looking for all supplies he and Karen would need. Border of the Land of Fire. Team 8 and Niji arrived in a small town on the northern border of the Land of Fire. Several ninja supply stores littered the streets, making it clear that the village was a common rendezvous point for Konoha shinobi. "Sai is supposed to meet us somewhere in the village," Niji informed the group. Kiba scoffed in mild annoyance. "What good is that? He could be anywhere in here." Shino nodded in agreement but was less worried. "That may be the point, Kiba. How can we find our target who could be anywhere in the elemental nations if we cannot find our own companion in a small village such as this?" He reasoned in his classic stoic manner. "It just sounds like a waste of time to me," Kiba replied. Despite having calmed down somewhat in the last few years since he graduated the Ninja Academy, Kiba was still brash and impulsive at times, tending to rush into things in hopes of proving himself without a plan, something that often backfired on the young Inuzuka from time to time. "Well, if we have to find him, let's not waste any time," he declared, racing off with Akamaru into the village. Foolish. Niji spoke quietly. I agree. Kiba is not overly familiar with Sai's scent, so locating him will be easier for you or Hinata. Shino droned. No, then maybe we should go after him. Make sure he doesn't get into any trouble. Hinata replied, slightly embarrassed for her teammate. Hinata is right. Sai is probably watching that fool make an idiot out of himself as we speak. Niji said. On his orders, the 3 remaining Konoha shinobi began walking further into the village, while not as fast as Kiba. They could tell that he hadn't gone far. They caught up with Kiba in the center of the village, randomly sniffing the air. Any luck yet? Niji asked, already knowing the answer. No, are you sure he is even here? Kiba huffed. Niji nodded, not at all surprised that Kiba was unsuccessful. If this is indeed a test, then he will likely have modified his scent with a genjutsu. You would either need to have a strong familiarity with Sai, or an item of his clothing to be able to locate him like that. Then I am sure he will have put on a henjup. Neither Hinata or myself knows Sai well enough to identify him from his chakra alone. With that said, I believe Shino's beetles will be the quickest way of locating Sai. He informed the group. That does seem the most logical solution. My beetles will be able to find Sai in only a few minutes. Shino agreed. Like most Aburames, Shino was highly logical and would always think things through before acting. For this same reason, Shino's beetles already knew what Sai's chakra tasted like, so the insect-loving Chunin had little doubt that he could find Sai in no time at all. Then you know what to do, Niji replied. Shino nodded, and a small swarm of beetles spread out from the Aburame, quickly moving through the village, landing on every person for a split second, just long enough to taste their chakra. As he predicted, less than 5 minutes later, a small beetle returned to land on Shino's outstretched index finger. Sai is sitting atop a building 1 block to the south watching us, he informed the group. Lead the way, Niji said curtly. Shino nodded and jumped up onto a nearby roof. For ninja, it was only 2 jumps before they landed next to what looked like an elderly man painting part of the village. You're late, Sai informed the group, lowering his henge. Sai was a very thin teenage boy with short black hair and eyes to match. He wore all black that seemed to accent just how pale his skin really was. On his back he carried a backpack containing ink and scrolls and a tanto. Well, you didn't meet us at the rendezvous point, Kiba accused the pale dark-haired shinobi. That is not true. This village was the rendezvous point, and I was inside the village. You ran into the center of town brazenly searching for me as though I would simply step out and greet you. When in the field, Umbu are supposed to remain hidden, even from their allies. A mission as a double agent or infiltration can be given away as easily as having a friendly shinobi smile at you, Sai informed with a fake smile that nobody found believable. Kiba, for his part, was left speechless. He wanted to argue that this wasn't an undercover mission and he was wasting time. Unfortunately for the Inuzuka, the only thing that escaped his mouth were incoherent nothings. I read a book that said that people who cannot form words properly often have a speech disorder or suffer from low intelligence. In both cases, the book said these people are often self-conscious, or their disability. Sai said while wondering if Kiba was one such person. Sai had been trained to suppress all emotions during his training in the now disbanded Root faction of Umbu. Since he met Naruto, however, he has been trying to reclaim that part of his humanity. Despite this fact, he still has difficulty understanding certain situations, often ending up with him insulting one of his would-be friends. Kiba was about to yell at Sai for his unknown insult, but he was cut off by Niji. In any case, we have found you now. Our mission was to rendezvous with you and get the report on what leads you have on the location of one of Sasuke's former companions, Karen. Sai nodded and turned to Niji, handing him a scroll. There is not much to tell. I have been searching all of Orochimaru's former hideouts to the north in search of her. Several had been used, and I suspect she had been there at one stage, he said. So she moved on, but to where? Hinata said, glad that they had at least one lead to go on. It seemed she was heading northeast, towards the land of lightning. As to why she would be heading to where all the Alliance shinobi were upon leaving Konoha, I could not say. If I had to guess, I would say she was looking for Sasuke, Sai replied. No, why would she be searching for Sasuke? Didn't he almost kill her? If it was me, I would be trying to help the person most likely to kill Sasuke, Hinata reasoned. Sai didn't really follow, but in his defense, the choice Hinata had outlined was one based on emotions rather than logic. Sai saw it as an escaped criminal trying to rejoin their group. Hinata saw it as a heartbroken girl wanting revenge. Both were wrong, but Hinata was far closer to the truth. Both are possible scenarios, but neither matter to us. Her reasons are her own. Our task is to locate the criminal and return her to Konoha to stand trial. Simple as that. Niji finally spoke. You would make a good member of Umbu Niji, you too, Shino. I don't think Kiba and Hinata have the right mindset for the job though, Sai said, getting to his feet. Hinata didn't mind. Being a member of Umbu was never something that she considered as a career path. If anything, she wanted to become a sensei like Kurenai, but she knew that she was a long way from that level yet. In fact, Kurenai even told her once that compared to Kakashi and Asuma, her fellow sensei of the passing students, she was by far the weakest when it came to combat. Kakashi's Sharingan would see through her genjutsu, making it no contest, and Asuma was a member of the 12 Guardians, a position that is not simply handed to anyone. Kiba, for his part, was just muttering to himself about not wanting to be a Black Ops ninja anyway. He only stopped when Shino decided to speak. Where do we start our search? Perhaps it would be best to return to the last place that you suspected Karen to be. We might find some trace of her there. A torn piece of clothing. If the place had been closed up long enough, there may even be some faint traces of her chakra remaining for my beetles to analyze. The Aburaim suggested. I would certainly agree. Sai, how far do we need to travel to reach Karen's last suspected location? Niji asked. Half a day northeast, on foot that is. We need to go in that direction anyway, Sai replied. Without need for any orders, Ser took out a large scroll of paper and a bottle of ink. In a flash, he painted 4 large birds that sprung to life off the page and landed in front of the shinobi. Niji and Hinata shared a bird while the others each took their own. It took quite a bit of convincing to tempt Akamaru to trust Sai's creation, but eventually the 4 birds took off, flying high over the countryside, heading in the required direction. Land of Earth. Several hours had passed and Naruto had collected all of the essentials he and Karen would need for their trip. He left the store with a large bag that contained a kit to set up wind-proof tent for the coldest climates, and several small portable flame heaters that the store owner explained ran on chakra. Even civilians could use chakra if there was an object that allowed it. Naruto grabbed a few, because the heaters were also used to cook on, having a small stove top and canister to boil water from snow. Naruto walked slowly back towards his hotel room, the large backpack close to overflowing behind him. Naruto, do you feel that? Kurama asked seriously. Yeah, we're being followed. I can't say what they want though, Naruto replied. He didn't know what anyone would want with him. He just hoped it wasn't someone who knew who he was or why he was in Iwame. Kurama grunted in agreement. Their stalker as of this moment had no intent to harm his container, but he knew all too well that that could change in an instant. You need to deal with them before we can move on. For whatever reason, they know you're not a normal civilian, the fox warned his Jinchuriki. Naruto let out a sigh and nodded before turning around slowly. The streets looked deserted. The sun would still have been rather low in the sky, so many of the surrounding villagers and tourists were still asleep. You can come out, I know you're following me, Naruto said firmly. His voice seemed to echo for a short, while bouncing off the thick walls of the surrounding buildings. For a few moments nothing happened. Naruto was about to call out again when a man in full body armor, all in black contrasting a snow-white mask that covered his entire face, landed atop one of the nearby building. You have some talent as a censor, it would seem, the man said. His voice was augmented by his mask, making it sound deep and distorted. The effect gave the man a mysterious feel, and Naruto could tell the man was well above the level of most shinobi. What do you want? Naruto asked assertively. He was confident that he could deal with the masked man. After all, he had defeated Madara Uchiha. Regardless of this fact, he was also well aware that he only had 1 kunai and no shuriken. He also knew he had no time to collect senjutsu, and the sheer power of his fox cloak would raise the attention of IWA, something he had no desire to do. The masked man didn't answer. Instead, he drew 2 kunai and launched them both at the blonde. Naruto scowled slightly and created 2 clones without seals that both caught a kunai moments before they hit Naruto in the chest. So it would appear that you are not just a talented censor, that is quite some mastery of shadow clones, the masked man said, his voice hiding any surprise that may have been in his voice. If you want to do this, then can we at least take it somewhere else? Innocents could be hurt if we fight here, Naruto said, removing the pack holding all his supplies and handing it to one of his clones. Take that to the hotel room, he ordered before taking the kunai from his clones and adding them to his own. If you wish, there is a shinobi training area a short way from here. Follow me, the man said. Naruto followed from a safe distance behind. He was not putting the chance of being attacked while traveling. It appeared that the masked man had a similar thought, as he made sure to keep a kunai in his hand and 1 eye on his back as they jumped across the rooftops. After running for about 5 minutes, they came to a small opening in the cave that led out onto a snow-covered field. Naruto instantly was glad that the sweater top that Karen had picked out was warm. The field, if it could be called, that was on a steep slope. Large rocks scattered the area, and at the far end of the training area, a cliff dropped down all the way to a small frozen river. Naruto didn't have to look down to know that he did not want to fall off. "Time to show me what you can really do, young Namikaze," the masked man declared before peppering the blonde with kunai. Did he just say Namikaze? Naruto wondered as he flipped away from the incoming projectiles. His mastery of Kurama's chakra had increased his speed even when he wasn't using the fox cloak. To control how fast he moved, he needed to have almost perfect reflexes and muscle control. I believe that he did. Chances are this man must know you are somehow related to the Yondaime. That could be troublesome if they are from IWA and unaware of your contributions in the war, Kurama replied. The fox already had a fairly good idea of who was behind the mask, but he couldn't be sure. Naruto continued to dodge the incoming projectiles. Every so often Naruto would double back to collect some kunai to add to his pouch. Well, that's just great, Naruto thought sarcastically. I might be forced to kill this guy. I can't have him returning to IWA telling everybody about fighting against a relative of the Yondaime, he added. Kurama smiled his old sinister smile. He may have lightened up, but the giant fox still had a sinister side. Then what are we waiting for? Let's show him what happens when he messes with us. Naruto nodded and created several clones that sped through the man's kunai, expertly dodging the blades with ease. As they got close, however, the masked man withdrew 2 long chains before spinning to collect the clones as they came within range. The knowledge of the clones dispelling returned to Naruto, and he cursed under his breath. The man was far too skilled with those chains to have any hope of defeating him easily. If you hope to defeat me, you are going to need to start trying. I know that you are still suppressing a good deal of your chakra, the man declared. Fine, if you are so eager for this fight to end, then I'll play, Naruto answered the man. The top layer of snow around Naruto's feet visibly moved as he relented from suppressing his chakra. Karen awoke with a jump as Naruto's chakra flared. She had been having such a wonderful dream, but for the life of her she couldn't remember it. She was awoken again from her musings as she felt Naruto's chakra flare once more. She didn't even need to use her sensory technique to feel it at the moment. What is he doing? She asked herself as she got out of bed and pulled on a top and some pants. When she exited her room, she made the discovery that Naruto was not in fact in their hotel room. She then became slightly worried. Quickly closing her eyes, she decided to scan for his chakra signature. Instantly she found Naruto. He's fighting someone, she gasped as she felt the second chakra signature and instantly ran out the door to their room, almost falling over the large backpack Naruto had left behind with his clone. Instantly Naruto's speed and strength increased. The masked man was forced to quickly back away before the blonde was able to cross the distance. Only the 2 chains wrapped around his wrists kept Naruto at bay. Every so often a clone would sneak closer. He's tough, but he's still holding back. I can feel it, the man thought before running through a set of hand seals. Once he finished his seals, the masked man slammed his right foot into the ground and 2 large chunks of earth rose from the ground before speeding towards Naruto. Naruto knew he could avoid the jutsu with ease, however he decided to meet it head-on. Quickly he created 2 clones and held both hands up. The masked man's eyes widened slightly behind his mask as 2 perfectly formed Rasengan sprung to life in the teen's hand. The Doton jutsu didn't stand a chance. Naruto's Rasengan easily overpowered it, and to make matters worse, the dust it kicked up obstructed the masked man's vision. Where is he? He asked, looking around. At the last second he felt something coming from above and managed to roll out of the way of Naruto descending from the sky with another Rasengan in hand. Not bad, Namikaze, for a kid. But you're still holding back. You're hiding something, I can tell, the man declared. How can you be so sure? Naruto asked. The truth was, if you counted how much stronger Sage Mode and Bijou Mode made him, then he was still hiding a mighty large chunk of his strength, and he had no desire to bring either technique out to defeat this man. Simple, you're so confident despite failing to land a single hit yet, the man replied. Are you sure I can count 1 hit? Naruto replied, his smirk growing. The masked man puzzled over what Naruto had said for a moment before he felt the armor over his right arm crack and shatter. But it dodged his Rasengan. Didn't I? He gasped in shock. How? I made a second Rasengan as I was coming down. I still have a little trouble making them without clones, but I figured you would dodge, so I didn't really have a choice. I wanted to see how durable that armor is. It must have been expensive, Naruto answered. What is this kid? I'm beginning to see why they gave his old man a flee-on-sight order, the masked man thought at the same time as Karen burst into the field. What are you doing here? Get back, Karen, this isn't safe, Naruto said, seeing the kunoichi out of the side of his eye. I wonder, He seems rather determined to keep his true abilities hidden. I need to try something different to coax them out of him, the masked man thought. Karen shook her head in defiance. But why are you fighting? But whatever it was that Karen was going to say was lost in her throat as she saw the masked man move and several kunai shot towards her. His aim was amazing and she was frozen in shock. Naruto's eyes widened and he acted instinctively. The distance seemed insurmountable and Naruto didn't have enough kunai or the skill with the blades necessary to block them all. As such, he was reduced to his only remaining option. Karen had closed her eyes, ready for the pain that was sure to follow. The only problem was nothing happened. She slowly opened one eye to peek out as if unsure that she was still alive. What she saw though floored her. She landed on her knees in awe as Naruto stood defensively over her, his body covered in glowing yellow chakra that licked around him like flames. His normally spiky hair seemed to stand up higher and several dark markings ran around his body. Are you okay? Naruto asked Karen calmly. She looked dumbstruck but nodded slowly. This chakra, it's overwhelming. I feel like I am going to suffocate. But it's still so warm and comforting, she thought, barely able to make a coherent thought. Naruto, that was foolish. IWA will investigate a spike in chakra like this, Kurama said, using Naruto's mouth to speak out loud. I know, Kurama, but I couldn't just do nothing, she would have died. Naruto replied defensively. That is exactly what you should have done. I told you keeping that girl around was dangerous, and you didn't listen. If you get caught because of this, it will be her fault, Kurama retorted. Both Karen and the masked man watched the interchange with varying levels of curiosity and fear. Maybe, but I didn't want to see her die. She's a friend, and I don't want to see any of my friends suffer because of me, Naruto answered sadly. Karen felt her heart jump slightly but ignored it. She was far too preoccupied with the conversation Naruto was seemingly having with himself. Fine, let's just finish this man off. When this is over, you can't afford to stay in this village any longer, Kurama huffed. Naruto nodded in acceptance and turned to face the masked man before simply disappearing. The masked man's eyes shot wide open as he felt a pain in his stomach. He looked down and found Naruto's arm embedded in his stomach, his armor shattered in a single punch. He coughed out blood as he fell to his knees while his mask fell off as he landed face down in the snow. Naruto ended his bijou cloak as he looked down upon the man with his head buried in the snow. He slowly rolled the man over with his foot before stopping. Asahi! Why would you do this? Naruto asked in stunned disappointment. Asahi looked up at Naruto, no malice or anger in his eyes. Because I wanted to know the truth. Why you really left your home. There were so many inconsistencies. How could the son of Minato Namikaze, and a young man trained by both copycat Kakashi and Jiraiya of the Sannin, possibly still be a genin? Now I know you're a Jinchuriki. Can you ever forgive me? I had to indulge my curiosity. Forgive this old man, he said, knowing that most ninja were not forgiving at all. I shouldn't, you know. I could get caught because of this, Naruto replied. I'll take the fall. This was my fault. Take the girl and run. It will take IWA several days to send a team out this far to investigate. Go take Karen and make sure you are far from here by the time they come. I'll make sure they never get a sign of your trail. It's the least I can do, Asahi said sadly. Naruto simply nodded and turned back to where Karen still sat in the snow, a look of awe on her face. We need to go. I'm sorry we can't wait around for another few days, Naruto said. Karen nodded, but her body was being difficult. Can you stand? He asked. I don't know, I think my body is in shock. It's not responding properly, she replied fearfully. She didn't want to be left behind. Her fears were unfounded, however, as Naruto lightly scooped her up from the ground and cradled her safely as he rushed off back in the direction of their room to collect the supplies they would need if they wanted to survive. Karen relaxed in his arms. She closed her eyes and felt his chakra surrounding her. This is nice. I could get used to this, she thought before she suddenly went very tense. Oh no, please don't tell me. I'm starting to have feelings for Naruto. Chapter 9. Heading north. Naruto held Karen in a bridal style as he kicked open the door to their hotel room. His eyes quickly scanned the room as if he expected to be ambushed at any moment. Once satisfied that the room was empty, he crossed the room and gently placed Karen on the couch. How are you feeling? You're a little red in the face, he asked, concern visible on his face. Yeah, I'm fine, Karen answered quietly. As dense as ever, Naruto once more failed to see that she was blushing. Okay, sit tight, I'm going to go grab our stuff, then we need to move. The longer we wait, the more chance it will be that someone finds us, Naruto said before taking off around the small hotel apartment and collecting all the essentials that they would need for the journey. Karen sat on the couch, her mind racing. The events since she woke that morning were running through her mind. From waking up to Naruto's peak of energy, it struck her that when she thought about it, she was just in her bedroom less than half an hour ago sleeping, and now she was back about to flee from the village. The main scene that played through her mind over and over again was Naruto appearing in front of her, preventing the kunai thrown by Asahi from ending her life. The power radiating off Naruto made her knees weak. It was awe-inspiring. She had felt weak-kneed once before in Sasuke's presence, but it was out of fear. Naruto had far surpassed Sasuke, but despite having all that power, it wasn't frightening at all, rather comforting. Karen's heart began to beat faster as she thought about the blonde. No, I can't accept this. I don't like him. I just need him to survive, she told herself. The problem was, no matter how many times she told herself this, deep down she knew it was a lie. Naruto returned around a minute later, a large backpack strung across his back. The pack seemed almost as large as the teen himself. He approached and bent down to pick her up again, and once more her face turned a shade of red almost as deep as her hair. Wait, I can walk now. It was just your chakra got to me before. I'm fine now, she said urgently. Oh, okay, well then we better go. I placed your clothes in the bag so you don't need to worry about that, Naruto said with his warm smile in place despite the seriousness in the tone of his voice. Karen nodded and jumped to her feet. She let out a small sigh of relief when she found that her legs would support her again. She didn't know if she could handle the embarrassment of asking Naruto to carry her again. They were staying on one of the upper floors of the hotel and briskly made their way down the flights of stairs until they were once again in the luxurious entrance hall. As if sensing the reason the two shinobi were there, the same man that greeted them on their arrival quickly approached. Are you leaving us? He asked in a calm voice with the same slightly creepy smile he wore when they first met the man. Yeah, it's time for us to move on, Naruto replied as calmly as he could manage while in a hurry. He knew that it would be several days before IWA could hope to arrive to investigate the burst of chakra. However, he wanted to be well out of their reach by then. In fact, he wanted to be sure there was no trace that he was there at all. After paying the man for their time at the hotel, Naruto and Karen soon found themselves leaving the hotel and briskly walking through the streets just fast enough to not draw any attention to themselves should any questions be asked. Not knowing the layout of the village, they decided to double back and head north by heading around the large mountain that Owain was carved into. Outside of the cave, it had clearly been snowing. Several of the buildings had a thick coating of snow covered most of the buildings. The sky was still filled with thick clouds that obscured the sun from view, that along with the tall mountains gave the impression that it was dusk rather than mid-morning. While there must have been quite a lot of snow while we were in the main area of the village, Naruto spoke in all. 2 days ago they had entered and the building were bone dry, but now you could no longer see the thick reinforced stone structures. Yeah, but judging from what we have heard about this place, the weather can change at any moment. That's why going north into the wilderness, into the insurmountable peaks, is considered so dangerous. Karen replied. Her thirst for knowledge had meant that she absorbed all the information that Asahi had given her and more. Whilst Naruto was given the same lectures, the words of their former companions simply went over his head, once more showing that anything not combat-related was a real spot for the blonde Uzumaki. What was endearing about the somewhat dim-witted shinobi was his immovable desire and belief that he could do anything. I hope you're not having second thoughts. We're approaching the point of no return, and I would hate for you to resent me for dragging you along, he said, a boyish smile gracing his features. Karen was once more tempted to take off. Naruto's plan was after all suicide. Not for the first time, she was instantly hit with fear of being alone. This fear seemed to shake her from any self-preservative thoughts. Shaking her head violently, she turned to face her companion. You're not getting rid of me that easily. Who says that I wanted you to go? Having you around is at least someone else to talk to, Naruto replied, his smile not leaving his face. What is wrong with you? Are you not in the slightest bit annoyed with her that she has potentially given away our position? I know you are a kind person, Naruto, but kindness can only go so far before it becomes idiocy, Kurama lectured with harshness, licking off of every word. Naruto hadn't heard his companion talk to him like that since before the fight with Obito. I am annoyed, Kurama, but not at her. If I took Asahi seriously from the start, Karen wouldn't have been involved. I didn't need to draw on your chakra to win that fight, but because of my desire to find out why I was being attacked, rather than just dealing with the issue she was used against me. I am at fault here, not Karen, Naruto replied honestly. Well, I must say that I am impressed. I almost thought you were too stubborn to realize when you were wrong. I guess miracles do happen, Kurama mocked. Despite the tone of the Kyuubi's voice, he was really quite proud of Naruto. It was one thing to blame others for a situation, but it was another thing entirely to admit your own faults. Well, I guess I'm still growing. I must be doing something right if I can surprise a 2,000-year-old fox. Naruto taunted back. I didn't say I was surprised, fool. I said impressed, although now I am less impressed. It must have just been a fluke. Kurama laughed. Naruto's face vaulted in embarrassment, which almost caused him to trip over himself as he walked. You may want to watch where you're going. If you can't stay on your feet in the middle of a paved street, how do you plan on surviving all the mountains we need to negotiate? Karen's asked in a small laugh. Oh great, now I have both of you on my back. What did I do to deserve this? Wait, never mind, I don't think I want to know what you have to say. Naruto thought, prematurely cutting Kurama off from his retort. Ah, sorry about that. I was sort of distracted thinking about everything that has happened so far. He finally spoke, ignoring the fox laughing at him inside his head. Oh. Sorry, I guess I really screwed up, huh? We could have stayed in the village for a few more days and left in less of a hurry. Now because of me we are forced to flee. Karen admitted slightly sadly. It's not your fault, Karen. You did nothing wrong. You probably just froze up when Asahi attacked because you could tell who was behind the mask. Naruto replied in a comforting tone. A small blush threatened to cross Karen's face, but she suppressed it as best she could. Damn it, why is he able to say things that get me flustered so easily? I will not fall for him, I refuse to. I won't be hurt again like I was with Sasuke, she thought with all the determination she could muster. Karen was broken from her thoughts as the pair of runaway shinobi arrived at the village gates. This could be a problem. Naruto whispered slightly before coming to a halt, pretending to take great interest in one of the larger buildings in the area. Why? Karen asked, clearly confused by Naruto's sudden attitude. Think about it. If IWA shinobi come to investigate the large chakra burst, then they are going to check the list of people who left the village shortly afterwards. They will recognize our pictures even from the fake passports almost immediately, and if they don't when they send the records to IWA, someone there will. The old man Tsuchikage may not have survived, but plenty of IWA shinobi were on the front lines where I fought in the war. Naruto explained. The gravity of the situation finally hit the kunoichi, who could only nod darkly. I'm in no better of a position, the last known surviving member of the Akatsuki. I'm the #1 most wanted shinobi in all of the 5 great nations. Karen admitted slightly fearfully. So in other words, we just need to find another way to leave the village then. It would be too obvious to just go over the wall, someone would see for sure. Naruto answered, a small mischievous grin crossing his face. What are you thinking? Karen asked rather apprehensively. She had seen smiles similar to that many times, and they very rarely meant something productive. Oh, I was just thinking that it's been quite a while since I have played a decent prank on anyone. Let's see how these guards fare against the boy who once terrorized the entire Konoha population. Naruto replied. I knew it. Karen sighed but decided to wait and see where this went. Naruto sat down in a thinking pose in silence for a few seconds. There are 2 guards, so a single disturbance won't do. I'll need to divide them, leading them both away, which means I need to create a situation where guarding the gate becomes secondary in importance while dividing their attention. Naruto mused. Karen couldn't help but be somewhat impressed with Naruto's tactical mind. He came up with a plan surprisingly quickly, not as quickly or as well thought out as a certain Nara could, but fast nonetheless. Finally, Naruto returned to his feet and created 4 clones that quickly transformed into different children that wore civilian clothes. He then reached into his bag and removed one of the black sweater tops that he had brought the previous day. In one swift movement, he tore the shirt down the middle to create a single large piece of black fabric. You know what to do? Naruto asked, to which the kids nodded before dispersing. So now what? Karen asked curiously. She was interested in seeing how Naruto dealt with this type of situation. In the past, Orochimaru or Sasuke would simply kill the men for getting in their way. By now she knew better than to place Naruto on their level. Karen watched with interest as 2 of Naruto's clones created a large slingshot out of Naruto's discarded shirt and started collecting snow. You think snowballs are going to force both guards to forget about their post? She asked skeptically. Just watch. Naruto answered with a confident smirk. Much like Karen predicted, snowballs began descending on the 2 gate guards with deadly accuracy. The kids responsible made no effort to hide themselves. Hey brats, get out of here! One of them yelled, attempting to swat away an incoming snowball only to be hit directly in the head. Much to the guard's annoyance, the only response he received was uproarious laughter and another barrage of snow. That's it, the guard said, stepping out of his booth in an attempt to intimidate the children. Little did he know this was exactly what Naruto was waiting for. In the blink of an eye, the other 2 children appeared, and before the guard to respond, they had taken his keys. What the fuck? The guard yelled, quite obviously outraged by the turn of events. Hey kid, give those back. I hope you know that it's a serious crime stealing the gate keys, he said, reaching for a sword he kept on the other side of his belt only to find that two was missing. I don't think you're very good at your job. I mean, having your weapon and keys stolen by a couple of kids, whatever would your superiors think? One of the henge Naruto clones taunted. Hey Hanwa, how about a little help here? The guard asked his partner. Quite obviously the other gate guard was not pleased in the slightest at his partner or the children that had made them look like a couple of fools. He wasted little time drawing his weapon and exiting the guard's booth. Alright kids, playtime is over. Now give my partner his equipment back and nobody needs to get hurt. His answer was a snowball right to the face, giving the clones enough time to skillfully remove the man's keys from his belt. Looks like you both have lost your keys. A clone laughed happily in a fake sweet child's voice. Kid, give those back this instant, or we will be forced to take them by force, the guard said, rounding on the child who had taken his keys. Looks like you're going to have to come and get them then, the child said before taking off in the opposite direction. As if on cue, the boy who had the other guard's weapon and keys dropped the sword and took off as well, making sure to split up from his so-called partner. The remaining guard was now left in two minds. He couldn't leave his post unattended, but then again a gate guard losing the keys to the city was not something that went down well. It's risk getting fired or definitely getting fired then, he decided before reluctantly leaving his post to chase after the boy. From their hiding place Naruto appeared holding his sides laughing. Karen followed soon after, shaking her head slightly. I can't believe that worked, she said with a slightly stunned grin. Nah, that type of stuff was my way of life before I became a ninja. Besides, they were both civilians, guards maybe, but they were certainly no shinobi. Naruto chuckled as he casually walked towards the gate, pushing it ever so slightly open so they could slip out undetected. So where to now? Karen questioned once they were outside the village, the gate doors closing silently behind them. We head north. I guess we should follow the road while we can, then we head up into the mountains, Naruto announced, taking the road that circled the mountain around the village of Awame that bent higher up into the mountains. Karen sighed and just followed after the blonde. What did she expect? Naruto had no more of an idea on what to expect than she did. This was territory completely unknown to them. Even IWA had abandoned their outposts further north of Awame years ago. Looks like this is the last time I'll see civilization. She let out an audible sigh as more thoughts and questions ran through her head. What will we eat? Where will we sleep? Naruto seemed so calm and confident. How can he be so sure of himself? All these thoughts and more raced through the kunoichi's mind as she followed after Naruto, who was slowly picking up the pace to that of a genin as they moved out of sight of the village. Konoha. Kakashi was not having a good day. Literally hundreds of requests had come in to attend Naruto's official funeral. Not many of the people that Naruto had helped during his career as a shinobi were too pleased with his decision to charge for seats. Some like Tazuna and Inari were able to sympathize with Kakashi's plight, having seen Konoha after Pain's attack whilst helping with the reconstruction of the village. For this reason they agreed to take the admission price off their bill. While the self-proclaimed super builder was easily mitigated, the same could not be said for many others. Koyoki Kazuhana, the daimyo of the Land of Spring, was furious. Naruto had not only saved her but also her entire nation, and now she was being told that she had to pay Ryo to show her respects and say farewell to the boy that she owed so much. The fact that it soon became common knowledge that groups from the 5 great nations were given seats free of charge made things worse for the copy ninja. The priestess Cheyenne blatantly refused to pay, saying that Naruto would never have allowed something like this to occur, and it spat upon his memory to do so. Kakashi couldn't help but somewhat agree with the priestess from the Land of Demons. Other nations also voiced their displeasure at Konoha's decision to sell off the tickets to a funeral. Some paid begrudgingly, if only to show some respect to the boy who had been so influential to them, while others refused, stating that they would honor Naruto in their own way. All in all, Kakashi was feeling rather drained when the village elders entered his temporary office. Kakashi Dano, it seems that the preparations are almost complete, and the seats are all but sold out, Kohara said with a contented smile. Kakashi failed to share her optimism. Perhaps, but we have upset quite a few allies in doing so, he replied with a tired sigh. Allies that will forgive us in time, Kakashi Dano, but the potential of a major village alliance is the real issue here, as well as funding the rebuilding of Konoha, Kohara assured the acting Hokage. Hamura seemed slightly more concerned than Koharu did, but did not speak out about his concerns. Rather, he decided to change the topic completely. Tell me, has there been any news on Tsunadeheim? He asked. Kakashi closed his one exposed eye and sighed once more. Not a happy topic. No, she is still in a coma. She was out for close to a month when pain attacks and by all accounts was forced to push her healing abilities further during her fight with Madara. She was only able to save Garudano and Meidano after all. It could be several weeks before we see any sort of response for her, that is if she pulls through at all. He answered sadly. We will postpone the funeral for Naruto until she has awoken, of course. Hamura said assuredly. This time it was Kohara who wore a slight scowl, but unlike her former teammate she had no problem in voicing her displeasure. That is unwise, the sooner we act on this the better. At the moment the boy is a major bargaining tool, but the longer we wait the less influential his name will become. We cannot postpone something of such importance for anyone, even Tsunadeheim. That may be, but let's also remember just how important Naruto was to Tsunade-sama. If she finds out we held a funeral for Naruto, and she wasn't even in a state to attend, I fear for our safety. Kakashi admitted honestly. It also shows great disrespect to Tsunadeheim. She thought of the boy quite highly, almost like family. Hamura added. Very well, but do not wait for too long, Kakashi Dano. Political leverage comes and goes, do not forget that. Kohara warned. That may be, but Naruto has always had the ability to leave a lasting impression on people. The copy ninja replied. I will leave the decision to you, of course. I just hope you are capable of making tough decisions when called upon. Kohara answered before turning to leave, Hamura following in her wake. I'm starting to see why Tsunade-sama disliked dealing with the elders. At least I don't have Danzo to compete with. Kakashi thought once the two older shinobi had left Land of Earth. Several hours had passed since Naruto and Karen had left Iwame. They had been following a winding road that went north, the last road available for travelers. After about an hour the once wide and accessible road had descended into little more than a narrow path that often had steep cliffs on either side. By now the path was in such a state that Naruto guessed you would either need to be a trained ninja or have safety gear to navigate it safely. Even with their shinobi training, every so often a rock would slide under their feet, almost causing one of them to lose their footing. You know, I'm starting to think it might be safer off the path, Naruto joked after a particularly large chunk of earth collapsed down into a deep crevasse to the side of the path not held against the side of the mountain. I'm thinking you might be right. Even using chakra to stick to the ground, this is dangerous. Still, if IWA have any buildings still standing that we could use for shelter, they will be along this path. So we should use them as long as we can. Karen replied. The sky was darkening, both from the now setting sun and the increasing thickness of the clouds that had steadily become more threatening as the day wore on. Looking up, Naruto couldn't help but agree that it would be nice to have proper shelter for at least one more night. Well, if we don't want to get caught up in that storm, I suggest we get a move on. Hopefully we can find an old abandoned outpost to take shelter before nightfall. Naruto added in agreement. The pair began growing increasingly desperate. Around an hour later, there had so far been no sign of any buildings, abandoned, ruined or otherwise. To make things worse, a few specks of snow began to fall from the sky as the dark clouds closed in. This is bad. The next area that's somewhat flat, we should set up camp, Naruto suggested. Do you have a tent? Karen asked. The question had been playing in her mind for quite some time now, but this was the first time that she had decided to voice her concern. Yeah, I picked up a large thermal tent that has 2 separate rooms, and several chakra-powered heaters this morning before I ran into Asahi. Naruto replied. Separate rooms? I haven't seen a tent like that before, although I'm only used to single standard shinobi tents. The kunoichi admitted. Yeah, well, I figured that you would probably want your space, especially while we were sleeping. Naruto said, a tiny blush crossing his face. Karen noticed this and couldn't help but tease the poor boy. What's this? Don't tell me you are embarrassed about sleeping in the same room? We spent several days traveling together, sleeping in the back of Asahi's caravan. Naruto blushed slightly more and began mumbling beneath his breath. Sorry, what was that? She teased. We weren't alone then. Naruto whispered quietly, but loud enough for the kunoichi to hear him. Then the reality of it struck Karen. They were all alone. Nobody around for close to 100 miles. There was nothing, only them. Now it was her turn to blush, picking up on what Naruto may have been thinking that caused him to blush. He's been thinking about me, she mused, finding the thought somewhat pleasing before quickly scolding herself once more. The last thing she wanted was to have romantic feelings towards anyone, least of all someone who was so closely connected to Sasuke. This was somewhat true. Karen had often been the topic of discussion between Naruto and Kurama. The blonde was also quite relieved to discover that he could keep some of his thoughts away from his inner companion. It was never anything overly important. He would trust Kurama with most things. He was, however, a 16-year-old boy who couldn't help but have several indecent thoughts. that the large fox would discourage, certainly considering that he disliked their red-headed companion. Thanks, I guess. You really thought this out, didn't you? Karen replied eventually. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck in embarrassment. Not really, I'm just making it up as I go if I'm being honest. Naruto spoke somewhat reluctantly. Why, he was somewhat ashamed to admit he had no plan. He couldn't say. He had rarely gone into any conflict with a clear plan, so why was it that this time he was almost embarrassed to admit his lack of a clear plan? I guess after all I have been through, I'm starting to realize that running into things head first is not always the best idea. He contemplated. Maybe, but everything that way hasn't ended out all bad, has it? Granted, you make a fair amount of mistakes, but in the end you always came out on top. Kurama assured the runaway Konoha ninja. Naruto was about to respond to the large fox when he was distracted by Karen. Look over there, she yelled, pointing to a point around 200 yards ahead of them. Naruto squinted to see through the snow that was now steadily falling from the sky. It took a few moments for his eyes to become accustomed to the poor visibility. Then he saw it, a small stone building protruding from the side of the mountain, looking as though it was carved out of the earth itself. Let's go, we can save camping for another night. Plus there might be information on where the other outposts are, maybe even a detailed map of the area. Naruto said happily. The two teens moved faster than they had all day. Whether that was because they were relieved to find shelter and the weariness of the day's travel had been forgotten, or that the snow was coming down faster and faster, neither could say. The old IWA outpost built into the mountainside was far larger than it had appeared from a distance. Naruto could already see that from the moment they arrived at the front door, that like the rest of the building was made of stone. It also surprised him that the stone was warm to touch. Wow, it's not even remotely cold, he exclaimed, voicing his surprise. I don't care, let's just get inside already, it's freezing out here. Karen chorused before pushing past Naruto and sliding the door open. Unsurprisingly, the room was pitch black. Only the fading light from the open door illuminated a large room. Naruto quickly withdrew a small lamp that ran off chakra before closing the door behind him. The light from Naruto's lamp filled the room. Despite the fact that it had quite obviously not been used in many years, the building was not in a bad shape at all. The stones seemed to radiate warmth that allowed both teens to remove their jackets. There was a large table in the center of the room with only 2 chairs, and several candles sat on the table. Naruto wasted no time lighting them to add extra light to the room, which helped visibility immensely. They could now see that on the back wall was a large detailed map of the land of Earth. Several points were marked that piqued Naruto's interest, but decided that he would come back once they had finished exploring the area. Either side of the map were doors and lead to bedrooms, each with nothing but a small single bed and a small bedside table holding a lantern and a few candles. Well, it's not much, but it is more comfortable than a tent in the middle of a snowstorm. Naruto sighed once he finished lighting the lamp and candles in Karen's room. Yeah, but I would hate to be positioned out here for months at a time. Karen replied, shuddering at the thought. That's true. I would be so bored, but at least I could train properly. Naruto chuckled. There would be nothing to do but train and sleep. Karen answered with a small laugh of her own. We haven't found the kitchen yet. With any luck they might have a stove that works so we can eat. I take it you did remember to bring food? What, do you take me for an idiot? Naruto asked, taking out a large scroll that had a large supply of long life food sealed inside. Well, Sasuke did call you Dobe. You don't get a nickname like that by being smart. Karen joked. Naruto's face vaulted, grumbling about stupid teams as he opened another door and went off in search of a kitchen.